This guitar right here is hands down, unequivocally, in my top 3 most prized possessions ever. Just a glorious thing. Hey folks, let's start this video off. I'm Dagan, and this is another installment of my little guitar guitar stories series. Because this has been on the wall for a little while, when my lovely SG is right there, and everyone's been like, what's that guitar with the stickers on? And who signed it? So if you're here for that, I'm going to tell you all about this, but for the people that do know, this isn't a Gibson Steve Jones signature Les Paul Custom. This is my 1977, the same year that Anarchy in the UK came out, 1977, post-lawsuit, Ibanez 2350, I think they called it. Essentially, a Japanese 70s lawsuit, post-lawsuit, Les Paul Custom. And I've Jonesied it, and some people have scribbled on it. Let's get into it. And as always, my channel and this video are sponsored by the fine folk at Anderton's. While you might not be able to find yourself a 77 Ibanez Les Paul copy, however, they do have a fantastic second-hand section, so keep your eyes peeled on that. But I'll link in the description box down below all my favourite alternatives if you want to make yourself your own Steve Jones tribute guitar. From affordable to expensive, as well as other cool stuff that I think is crucial for that kind of Steve Jones tone, all down there from Anderton's, so check it out. Now I'll talk about the guitar in a second, right? But if you're watching this and you're not sure who Steve Jones is, you need to know who Steve Jones is. Steve Jones is a guitar player for the mighty Sex Pistols, as well as a ton of other amazing solo stuff. I've got all of his vinyls up on the wall, alongside like the original Pistols ones and Spunk and the rest and stuff. Johnny Rotten, Steve Jones, Glenn Matlock and PauL Cooke, and obviously Sid later on, changed the world. Absolutely changed the world. And Steve Jones is one of my all-time guitar heroes. Like, it was him and Angus Young. Before I even knew who Eddie Van Halen was, or any of that crazy 80s stuff, Steve Jones and Angus Young were the coolest guys on the entire planet to me. When Nevermind the Bollocks came out in 1977, I wasn't joking before, it changed the world. It changed people's mindsets, it changed fashion massively, and the guitar playing was a bit more raunchy and a bit more kind of not, I mean, they were technically the world's first manufactured band, and they'll admit that themselves, but like, compared to like the stuff coming out of America, like the Ramones and stuff, and the Clash having a lot more of like a poppy edge, It was just very raw. And when I was a kid and I watched Steve Jones play guitar, the way he held himself, and I copy a lot of Steve Jones on stage. I know he copied it from Johnny Thunders back in the day. I saw that and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And as a guitar player, when you get into them a bit more, like find out how the whole Pistols thing came about, Steve didn't inherently know how to play guitar. When he was a guitar player in the band, he was originally the singer of the band. Read his Lonely Boy book, it's incredible. He was a singer of the band, ended up playing guitar when they got Johnny in, and he didn't really know how to play guitar. So when I first started getting into that, I realized that a lot of my favorite riffs are written by someone who doesn't inherently know how to play guitar, but knows what they want the riff to sound like EMI. It's my second favorite Pistols song behind Silly Thing, but I think he plays it with his pinky over the top. Going from the B flat to the F. I always found that if someone really knew how to play guitar, they'd make something fancy and not play like that. But to get there, with his little pinky and stuff, it's just the coolest thing in the world. And as soon as I heard that record, and as soon as I started seeing videos on YouTube of Steve playing guitar, he was, as he is to a lot of people, a guitar hero. And I've been so tempted over the years to write Sex Pistols Guitar Hero on my Super Reverb, because that's what he had on his twin reverb back in the day, that famous picture. He's just an absolute legend. And his guitar was a 1974 Les Paul Custom, with an insane story that a lot of you may or may not know. Malcolm McLaren took it off Sylvain of the New York Dolls, promising him a place in the Sex Pistols, but instead gave it to Steve with the pin-up girls on. 74 yellow Les Paul Custom with the pin-up girls. And that guitar famously went missing for years, because I think Steve said he just gave it away. There was a reissue of that guitar in the late 2000s, which I had a chance to play for a PMT video, which was how to get the Sex Pistols sound, but the owners of the PMT channel have taken that down for some reason, but I still have the original footage, so here's some of that. That was a reissue from the late 2000s, and that's what Steve plays now, with the funky graphics on and stuff. But the original was lost for years, and is now in the very capable hands of Matt's Guitar Shop over in Paris. And I've been there once before, and I'm dying to go back, because if I see that guitar and play that guitar in real life, I think I might either burst into tears or burst into flames. So back to this guitar. Which doesn't really like to play very well or stay in tune very well, because it is nearly 50 years old. 1977 Ibanez 2350, the Ibanez Les Paul Custom, post-lawsuit. And I got this guitar when I was a kid. I was basically on a, what's it called? When you go somewhere for a mission. Like I was like 15 with my mum and my grandma. We went to London from Newcastle, and we went to Denmark Street. The famous Denmark Street, the Sex Pistols street. Jesus Christ, it was crazy. And I wanted to find an Epiphone Les Paul Custom. Makes sense, right? Epiphone, Gibson, Les Paul Custom. I was going to put some pin-up girl stickers on it and play a Pistols song with my heart was content. But we were walking along Denmark Street, and I can't remember the shop it was, but somebody wanted a part exchange this for a Gretsch. And he had this guitar on the table. And I was like, I'd looked at a few Epiphone Les Paul Customs, and they're obviously brilliant white, and that's marvelous. But I saw this, and it was the yellow, it was the correct yellow, and it was a custom. Didn't care what I said on the headstock, it was a yellowed custom. And they wanted to part exchange it for 350 quid. No, £300 towards the Gretsch. And my mum was like, I'll give you 350 if I can buy it off you. It was a birthday gift for me when I was a kid. And the guy in the shop wasn't happy at all, because he was going to make some money on this and sell it and get rid of the Gretsch and do all that kind of thing. So we had to go outside the front of the shop, and I got myself, thanks to my lovely mother, this 77 Ibanez lawsuit, post-lawsuit Les Paul Custom. It didn't always have these on. It was stock for ages because I loved the guitar as it was. It was so cool. I had a custom for as much as I knew I had a custom. This came later, before this, obviously. So, some history on the guitar. The 70s Ibanez lawsuit, Les Pauls essentially. In the 70s, it was really hard to get Gibsons and Fenders in Japan and stuff. So they were making their own versions of them because they had all the facilities there with Ibanez and the rest of the wonderful and sometimes very kooky Japanese guitar manufacturers back in the 50s, 60s and 70s. So they made this from 71 till 77. And the early ones, the lawsuit ones, actually were exactly the same, but had the open book headstock with Ibanez and then the split diamond logo. That lasted for a little while, and Gibson went, "You can't be doing that, stop that immediately." So then this is a post-lawsuit version with this headstock. Still very akin to a custom, but there's no split diamond and there's no open book headstock up top. The rest of the guitar kind of stayed the same. There was standards and there was customs, all with their own little unique quirks and features, let's say. But the specs on this pedal, besides all the stuff like I said I'll talk about in a second, it's got a maple neck, I believe. Bolt on, as you can see, which is interesting. Rosewood fingerboard, and the blocks are interesting because the blocks are like they're glued on, like stickers. Because you can see the glue on the outside. I don't know whether it's, they don't look like proper inlays enough. They could be recessed in, but there's no kind of shine or anything to them, so they might just be stickers. They might just be really bad inlays with glue spilling over. I don't know. The neck is wonderful and thin as well, which is weird for a Les Paul Custom, obviously. But my tiny little dainty teenage hands thought it was great. Bolt on. It says online the body's mahogany, but it's definitely hollow. Like it's a very acoustically resonant guitar, which isn't a usual thing for a Les Paul Custom style guitar. It's definitely hollow, but it says it's mahogany online. Tuning back a British stop bar tailpiece. Witch hat knobs, which are the standard ones besides this one, because it wasn't on there when I got it, so that's one I bought separately. Pickups though. These are really interesting. So I had no idea at the time of buying this, and it took me years to realize what these pickups actually were. These are Ibanez's / Maxon's Super 70 pickups, which at the time I was like, oh, it's not a DiMarzio, that's not a Seymour Duncan. I don't really care much for them at all. But the Super 70 Ibanez pickups are what was in the Ibanez Destroyer, which was Ibanez's version of the Explorer, which is the guitar that Edward Van Halen used to record Van Halen 1 and subsequent other things before it turned into the Shark. So these pickups are the same pickups that recorded, we'll just tune that B down and get it right. The Van Halen 1 pickups, everything that Eddie didn't play his version 1 Franken Strat with the white and black design on it, he used his Destroyer for 99% of the album pretty much with these exact pickups in it, which is insane. As a huge Van Halen fan now, this kind of is a nice amalgamation of all my favourite things in the world. So yeah, it's got the Maxon Super 70 pickups, which are iconic. This one had a cover on originally, this one didn't. I took the cover off because, let's get on to it, I wanted to make it a Steve Jones guitar, and it became so much more than that. It's actually staying in tune surprisingly well for this video. So how did it come about becoming a Steve Jones guitar, and where did these lovely signatures come from? Basically, it's all down to a chap called Richard Henry. Some of you might know Richard Henry. He's the lovely bloke that sold Kirk Hammett Greenie. He's a guitar dealer here in the UK that specialises in the most wonderful vintage guitars and new guitars, old Gibsons and Fenders and Gretsch's and all that kind of stuff. An independent guy here in the UK who I bought my SG Custom from. That's where we first got acquainted back in 2018, I think. Yeah. Had that, dream guitar, me and Richard hit it off. A few years later I wanted an actual Gibson Les Paul Custom, which I no longer have unfortunately, but when I got that second the actual Les Paul Custom, the white one, I was like, I've got a Les Paul Custom now, a Gibson one. I'm going to Steve Jones up the Ibanez. So off came the pickup covers, off came the toggle poker chip ring thing, and on went the decals. And these are extremely hard to find in the right size. There's people on Etsy and eBay that sell them, but they're always either too small or not quite right. But these are right, and the guitar, as it is now, without these, was born. But these have a very fun story. So after being friendly with Richard for so many years, Generation Sex were playing touring the UK. I never thought I'd get a chance to see the Sex Pistols. Of course not. They weren't a thing for years with Johnny and whatnot. So this is as close as I thought I'd ever come to seeing, was it Glenn? No, it wasn't Glenn. It was Paul, it was Cookie, Steve Jones, and two of the guys from Generation X. Obviously Billy Idol, and I'm sorry I can't remember the other guys. It was Generation X and the Sex Pistols doing a show together. I was like, I get to see my idol up close. And I knew Richard, being in Manchester at the time, that's where the show was. So I was like, mate, are you coming to the Manchester show? Because I knew for a fact that he's been good mates with Steve Jones. He sold Steve Jones so many Les Paul Customs over the year, which is an old school punk. It's bloody awesome. He also sells Slash loads of guitars, and he's a good guy to buy guitars from. He knows his stuff. I knew he'd be there. And I'm like, are you going to go see Steve? Like casually like that. I haven't recited this story in ages. Are you going to go see Steve? Or are you going to sell him any guitars and stuff? Because I've got a favour I might want to ask. Is there any chance if I give you a guitar, can you get Steve to sign it? And he's like, I don't know, man. I'll see what I can do. So I want to see Richard in the morning, just check out his beautiful 59 double cuts he has, and his guitar collection is insane. Did that and said, if I give you a call, it's happening. If you don't get the call, it's not happening. I was like, I'll just give you the guitar. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. He's like, no, you keep the guitar. If it happens, it happens. I went back to the hotel with Lucy, and my mate Jordan and my mate Emma was there, and I got a call. And I answered the call thinking, oh God, is it happening? And Richard was like, could you come down now? Like before the Generation Sex show. I was like, yeah, I will be there. I'll run if I have to. Of course I'll run. And then the phone fumbled a bit, and it was just Steve Jones on the other end of the phone. He's like, yeah, are you coming down? I was like, oh my God, it's Steve Jones. Because I messaged Steve before on Instagram, and he didn't reply. But he must have seen it for whatever reason. And he asked Richard, do you know this little loser who's messaged me on Instagram? Is he legit? Do you actually know him? And is he sound? And Richard was like, yeah, he's sound. I'll give him a call. And that's where that call sound. So I ran down to the venue, and he was like, quickly, come back. And I had my guitar. I walked down some stairs. It was like tunnel vision. It was insane. And I went back to the catering bit where I've been before. I've played there before. So I knew the place quite well. And there was just Steve Jones sat down, just finishing his food. He's like, all right. I was like, hi, Steve Jones. How the devil are you? We chatted for a bit. Showed him my guitar. We chatted about, because he moved from Friedman's to Marshalls at the time. He liked the more raw tone of the Marshalls before we get into the Friedman's. And I got this guitar out. And he was like, what's that? That's not a Gibson. Because he doesn't really sign a lot of stuff, Steve Jones. I was like, no, it's not a Gibson. It's a Ibanez that I've made to look like your famous 74 Custom. And he was like, well, I haven't played an Ibanez before, but I did play that other brand, because he played Bernie for a bit in the 2000s before he got his Gibsons and stuff. And I was like, oh, Bernie's actually quite similar to this. He was like, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Newcastle, I'm a Geordie. And he went, ugh. I was like, no, you can't hate on Geordies. This is all in jest, by the way. It was the funnest thing in the world. So he signed the guitar, and I was like, mate, can I get a picture, please? He was like, of course you can get a picture. Then he tapped his lap. And I was like, not often you get to sit on a Sex Pistols lap. So I sat on Jonesy's lap. We got a picture, and then I could feel this presence behind me. And it was PauL Cooke. It was Cookie. He was right there. So I was sat on a Sex Pistols lap, and another Sex Pistol photobombed me. And my heart was just in my mouth. I was a grown man. This is when Generation Sex was a couple of years ago now. I've got the past years on the past now. It's a couple of years ago now. I felt like a little child again. I was like, Cookie, can you sign it as well, please? And so I wanted to make sure it was to Dagan, so it didn't look like it was just a random signature and stuff. And I said our goodbyes, can't wait for the show. And then I think I floated up the steps and just floated into the air afterwards. I met my guitar hero, man. It was insane. The whole thing was insane. The story of this guitar, getting it on Denmark Street, my mum haggling for it, to me getting a Les Paul from Richard Henry, to then turning this into that, and then Richard sorting out that, and meeting Steve Jones. I put the picture on Facebook and Instagram as well, and I think he commented, "How are the lads?" or something underneath it. Yeah. So that's what the guitar is when you see it hanging on the wall in the back. Like I said at the start, it's one of my most prized possessions. The story's amazing. I did have the chance to buy one of the Steve Jones copies that I used for the PMT video, because one of them had a snapped headstock. There was two of them. I could have got it for a great price. I regret it because it'd be worth more now to sell, but I'd never ever sell it if I had it. I'm kind of happy I didn't, because now I've got this, and the story of this is just insane. Yeah, I'm out of breath now after reciting all that. My brain's all fried, but let's hear some more tones from this guitar. All you've heard is the bridge pickup as of this far. The Super 70, essentially Van Halen pickup. Is it still in tune? Somewhat. I've played non-Sex Pistols songs, that's all I've played as of yet. I'd like to get stuck as well. I don't think I've even changed the strings since Steve touched it. And I'm not gonna. So those are some tones and some specs of my 77 Ibanez 2550 Les Paul Custom that I turned into a Steve Jones tribute guitar because he's my guitar hero, and the story behind the signatures and everything else. I have on the channel here other guitar story videos on my Kramers, all the old crazy Kramers, the Frankenstrat I made when I was 16, all that stuff, so check them out down below. If you like what I do and want to support me even more, check out my Patreon as well, because I've got lots of behind the scenes stuff and exclusive content that you've never seen before on there. Thanks for watching. Big thank you to Andertons. Give it a thumbs up if you like this video, subscribe, I'll see you next time.